Hey everybody, this is Matthew from marketinginreallife.com. In this video, I just want to show you how you can check your Google Analytics and how you can have a better idea of how to read it properly. A lot of people know that they should have some sort of analytics, and they might maybe even got Google Analytics installed, but then you come to this page, which is the dashboard for analytics, and you kind of get overwhelmed not knowing exactly what to look at and what everything means. And usually what happens is people just focus on this area right here, which is the number of visits, or maybe you look at page views or things like that. There is a ton of information that Google Analytics gives you that you can use to make really good business decisions, and so you need to know how to read it properly. If you read it improperly, then you will make incorrect business decisions, which will possibly hurt your business, or might not change it at all, which can be just as bad. So I want to go through a few of the things over, maybe this might take more than one video, I'm not quite sure. We're just going to see how long this takes, and then you can watch them all on the blog here, and make sure that you do subscribe so that you are updated when there's new articles and new videos as well. So the first thing I want to do is a quick overview of what you can find in Google Analytics. Now I'm going to talk about this more to do with your website now, because there's a ton of things that Analytics shows you, and you can find all sorts of help in their help menus as well. When you're logged in, there's the help link right up here, and up in the top right where you can see my cursor. And you can click on that, and they have a really good database of help questions that you can look at and find answers to. So don't be afraid to really take some time to get to know this. As I said, by knowing your analytics, you'll know your business, and you can make better decisions. This is all assuming, of course, that you've installed analytics properly, so that you do get the proper data. So make sure that you don't commit any of those mistakes that I talked about in a previous blog post on marketinginreallife.com. The first thing that you should look at to get a general overview of your website is the visitors, although it's not the most important statistic. Really, what really comes down to is how much money you're making. So this is actually one of my sites, one of my live sites, miniwargaming.com, which I talked about before. And we can just see a few things on here, such as over the past month, we've gotten over 188,000 visits and about almost 1.3 million page views. On average, 6.79 pages per visit, a 39% bounce rate, 6 minutes and 42 seconds average time on site, and 29.58% of those are new visits. Now the bounce rate is a little off because I have some software installed that throws that number off, but it doesn't really matter because I look at other stats anyways. So what does this mean? Does this mean that your site should get 6.79 pages per visit, or that should be something that you shoot for? Not at all. It all depends on what type of site you're working with. This analytics account tracks both our store and our content site. So I've actually set it up so I can segment them and only look at the store or only look at the content site. And that's all in the advanced segments area, which we'll probably cover in another video. But I just want to show you a couple examples. I have all sorts of custom segments here. For example, only looking at North America, or North American with only the store visitors. For example, if I click this, North American store visitors, and then I apply that and keep the all visits there too so I can compare it, you'll see two lines appear on this. One of them will be all the visitors and the other one will be the store. So you can see the store is way down below here. And if you look at the all visits, there's 6.79 pages per visit, but in the store visits, there's 10.37. So obviously, when you start to look at different segments, you're going to get very different numbers. And that's why you can't just look at everything as a whole. You need to learn how to look at your statistics to get the real information. For example, if I were to disable this and go back to only looking at all visitors, and then I were to click on my e-commerce tab, which tells me my e-commerce percentage, I would see that I have a 0.35% conversion rate on my store, which is pitiful. Really, you want to shoot for, well, it's not a magic number, but you want maybe 1, 2, or 3% would be great. 1% is a good start, and then you can work it up from there to get 2 or 3%. And so you look at that and think, well, that's not very good. It's only 0.35%. Why is my site not performing very well? Well, it's because I'm not looking at the data correctly. In my case, like I said, this analytics account tracks both store.miniwargaming.com, which is a store, and www.miniwargaming.com, which has a forum, which has a place to watch our videos, and it has a bunch of other things too. So if I were to take this segment, which I'll show you how to do in a future visit or a future video, I actually have a segment here because there's actually more than one thing that they can buy. So if I say I only want North Americans, because they're the ones that buy from our store because our shipping is too expensive overseas, and I only want to look at store purchases, and I'll even keep the all visits so I can compare, and hit apply. Let this load. Analytics figures everything out. Loading, loading, loading. Okay, so now we see it has a 0.52% conversion rate, which you might think, well, it's still not very good. And you know what? You're correct. 0.52% is still not fabulous. But let's go a step further. You might think, well, I'm not doing very well. Something's wrong. I need to do some radical change, like offer free shipping or something really, really crazy. But this is where your individual business really, really matters. Because in my business, the thing that I am selling right now, the main manufacturer that I purchase from, the only place I can get it from, sells to Canadians at, which is what I am, at 20% higher than they sell to Americans. And they did this because they set the prices back when the currency exchange was way different than it is now, when an American dollar would equal $1.20 or $1.25 Canadian. And now, because everything's at par, my prices are way higher to Americans, so it's harder for me to compete in the American marketplace because my prices are all 20% higher. Even with my discount, they're still higher than American prices. And so I decided to look at this further and say, is that really the cause of my problems? And so I went, and let's just disable this, and I have Canadian store purchases only and US store purchases only. And I'll actually, no, you know what, I'll keep the North American store purchases just so you can see all the comparisons. Hopefully this isn't too overwhelming. Like, the segments is probably one of the most difficult thing to do, and I will show you that in a future video. So now we look at this. We see the North American store purchases 0.52%. The Canadian store purchases is 0.91%. So you can see in the marketplace where the prices are actually decent, I'm getting a 0.91%, which I will admit is not a great conversion rate for the store. But it is something that we're working on. In fact, I have to further clarify that this Canada store purchases only segment is for all visitors, so it's not just people who come to our store. I believe it ends up being a 1.75% or something like that. If I might have a segment in there, so it's much higher. So you have to really know how to look at your statistics to be able to get meaningful numbers. If I made all my decisions based off of the 0.35% conversion rate, saying, that's horrible, I need to do something drastic. Oh, I apologize, there's some background noise. It looks like somebody's doing some construction right outside my office. If I just based it off of 0.35%, then it wouldn't really give me the information that I need. So it's very important that you read your numbers properly, which is why I'm going to be making a series of videos in order to show you how to do just that. And we'll talk about segments, we'll talk about looking at your visitors, we'll talk about looking at your traffic sources correctly. In fact, I'll show you one mistake that I made where I thought I was getting 25 to 30% of my revenue from Google, and it turns out that I'm only getting about 9 or 10% in theory from search engine optimization with Google. And I'm going to show you how I was able to figure that out by looking at segments and looking at the different parts of my traffic. So I'm just going to finish this video right here because YouTube only allows up to 10 minutes, and so I'm going to stop and I'll make another video and we'll get it posted, and I'm going to show you all sorts of different fun stuff that you can do with your Google Analytics.